Hello everybody, it is Amiga One. Today we are... That's a great intro, we'll keep that in. But today we are going to be talking about the good old Sony job listing. This has been in the news for a couple of weeks now, and I'm finally getting around to it because I had to do a little bit of a recap and also talk about JTech for, a good while. But today we're going to be talking about this, and we're going to be, of course, starting off with my little side tangent story and then going into some of the actual responses here, because the side story tangent, you're going to love it. Trust me. But of course, before we get into all of that, if you like what it is that I do, once upon any other way, shape, or form other than like and subscribe, which is always enough, links down to everything in the description below. So, what actually happened? Well, if you haven't heard about the new Sony job listing, here it is, from Hazard Gaming himself, which was one of the first people to break the news here. Now, this actual Sony's job listing ends up talking about some of the more multi-platform type approaches that they are actually going to be talking about here. Now, that's not just my own words of them going full multi-platform for it, or them at least making the attempt to try to do so. We then have the actual thing where multi-platform is specifically stated in the actual job listing from Stallion83 here. This was from the official job listing posted on the actual board here. Now, of course, there are many people with many opinions out there, and many of them are actually kind of fucking terrible and fucking stupid, because quite honestly, it's really dumb that the entirety of the actual, PlayStation fan base is starting to go up in flames, if that JTech TV video rant thing that I made earlier on in the week was anything to go off of. But is Xbox still last here? Comes in with a very interesting take on specifically GT7. Now he says that no, PlayStation isn't porting GT7 to Xbox, it's just hard hopium for fanboys. Now, of course, I decided to take a little bit of a jab and a response to this because I wanted to see where this was going, and I basically said, is it really out of the realm of possibility? Notice how I didn't say anything specific. I was just asking, is it actually out of the realm of possibility for a game like GT7, which does have online games as a service type stuff, to be able to, be ported over to other platforms, because again, it is an online focused multiplayer type game. To which the person then says, yes, Xbox and PC aren't compatible with Gran Turismo. It's for PlayStation players to compete against each other for a chance to reach the GTWS finals. Where does PC sim rig or an Xbox controller fit into all of this? Now, I want you to notice something that he mentions in this. The basics thing is that his argument for this entire portion of this debate is that for me, a PC gamer, to want to play this game, I have to, quote, use a PC sim rig or an Xbox controller, despite the fact that the PC can use any fucking controller apart from the entire time here. And while yes, a PC sim rig can be helpful, it still requires a lot of your actual game knowledge and things. And it's just really fucking stupid how they look at this and think, oh yeah, it has to do with the esports scene. And if you think that it was them just, doing that one thing, no, they ended up doubling down after I responded with if you genuinely believe that software is designed on a computer that can't run on a computer, I am concerned for your understanding of basic things. Because, again, it is software that is designed on a computer that does and can run on a computer. He says it has nothing to do with the software, it's the structure of multiplayer and what you're competing for. Which, again, has nothing to do with anything that I was saying. Again, saying that you're competing to try to get to the World Cup Series thing, no, that's like everyone saying the reason why COD only has to be locked to a single platform is because of the esports scene for Call of Duty or the esports scene for Rainbow Six Siege, both of which are multi-platform, which, again, is very fucking stupid to think that, because the esports scene exists for a platform or for a game means that, it can't be multi-platform. This is fucking wrong. I basically talk about how multiplayer is just a connection to a server, and both PC can do that, and they can also connect to PlayStation servers without even an account, as I listed before with Helldivers. So the structure is just PlayStation, which again makes no sense because he's using the esports scene, which is the top 1% of gamers, for that whole thing. He then says, so you're playing GT7 on a PC in a non-compatible sim racing setup with PlayStation that carries many advantages and blitz everyone and get to the world finals. and have to play 60 FPS on a PS5 with the worst wheel. It's not going to work out well anyone for that, which, again, that's not what I'm arguing here. I'm arguing just porting the game over. The person doesn't need to or want to or even have to compete in the PlayStation-only stuff. Plus, one of the more interesting things is that they can actually then monitor who is using what and even lock out specific people from using, say, sim racing setups if they still want to compete. And I also brought up, I didn't bring it up in this screenshots here, I brought it up in other stuff where, you know, just make other leagues for PC or for Xbox. It's not that hard. In fact, I think it would be better because then you could have more people competing and having a bigger audience and having more exposure of the game to people like that, if that's really what the game is about, which it's really not. You then basically caps it off with it's a PlayStation only esports game. Deal with it. Just because a game exists with an esports scene doesn't make it an esports game. That's just full-on logic right there. But, I mean, side story aside, that's just really fucking stupid. And I'd love to see him eat his words in a couple years, probably, if that happens. If not, whatever. Maybe the next Gran Turismo will actually be, you know, multi-platform. It'd be really funny to see that. So next up here we have Snubs with "Remember How Hurt PC Community Got when KJ Gamer exposed that person, gamer tag, and how they never actually finished the Final Fantasy game despite shitting blood about being exclusive to PlayStation. Good times." Now, again, I don't know this situation at all to really make any commentary on it. But I don't think the PC community was hurt by that person getting exposed. I mean, again, saying that they've never finished the Final Fantasy game despite, you know, having all this stuff. It's a very strange thing, and I don't really have anything to it. I just thought that this was a weird thing to specifically cover. But moving on over to Pyro saying, "All this talk about PlayStation going third party has me sold on the Switch 2. I legit had no desire to get one, but I do now. I do more now because of this. Very interesting." And notice how this was actually the case after the job listing specifically. Now, I'm not going to knock the fact that he actually found more interest in, say, another platform, but the reason why he found interest in another platform is the reason I want to point out here. See, to use a more personal example, I eventually managed to get my hands on a Steam Deck, which completely killed my any desire to buy a Nintendo Switch of any kind, because, you know, my Steam Deck can do practically anything that I did there, so it doesn't really matter to me. But at the end of the day, this person decided that just because of the possibility of them going to multi-platform, meaning that he wants to now go to the Switch 2 because it becomes more appealing for some reason, despite the fact that the Switch 2 has very little, if any, of the advantages of modern gaming, i.e., you know, some of the big power stuff, some of the bigger games coming to it, and, you know, having a lot of smaller, more, I guess, bite-sized games, and I guess being portable. But now it's more desirable to you because of the exclusive, from what we can tell here. The Red Dragon here saying, "Oh no, the people who have been wrong, literally everything messed up again." Talking about and throwing around this article from PSU.com, which I don't know if it's an official PlayStation site. It seems like it's more of a fan website that does, like, or a gaming journalist website that's trying to do this. And again, PlayStation-centric, so you really don't need to talk about it. Where they're talking about how it's for smaller and live service games, which, again, has been the big running notion throughout most, if not a lot, of the current PlayStation motif of, well, they're just going to do for games as a service game, so it's not their big tentpole title with a lot of their big stuff. So, you know, it got tossed around by other people such as Xvault and Porterock here, as you can kind of see. Moving on from that, we then have Nicola talking about how this person's a piece of shit for wanting, well, you know, some of these lol cows to get their actual to get out of the jobs of the business of console warring, which I think that they will actually end up fizzling out more so after the whole console war has finally settled into the dust. But that's still about 2-ish years away, so I guys still got 2 more years, baby, hopefully. And then I can start actually making things on what I want to make on, at least more of the content that's not me covering the salts of the earth. D-Batch here with another take of told you guys it's live service games and not the AAA single player experience. Lol, Xbox guys thought they would get Spider-Man. Lol. Again, if you think that they're not going to port over, say, single player games, despite the fact that they've already done that to the PC, then you probably should get your eyeballs checked. Ronan here talking about how actually PlayStation fans are talking about this, but PlayStation higher-ups don't want to discuss it. They're making BS excuses for why games aren't hitting 15 million sales anymore. They are eroding the brand. Talking about how, again, during the PS4 era, there was a huge hit of 15 to 20 million consistently without PC. I am unsure as to if that's even the case. I don't know of any games in the PS4 generation that were hitting 15 million consistently. I guess maybe the Spider-Man games, but that's like just Spider-Man. And I don't know, maybe that's just me, and maybe I am just kind of missing a lot of the plot here, which I probably am. I'm not too keen on keeping up with a lot of stuff here. But this is Zubby Tech that we're talking about, that you're trying to use as an example of ethical journalism. No. Just fucking no. Just no. That's all that I have to say on that. Moving on, we then have Angel here with, PlayStation is not as big as Microsoft. PlayStation literally needs its console business. I mean, I don't know if Sony needs it completely because that's who owns the PlayStation brand. But PlayStation itself doesn't necessarily need it. Again, it's like when you're offering a burger at several different restaurants, or you're offering things at like a grocery store. The grocery store has a lot of different products, and when they are offered at like every grocery store, the company tends to make more money because they tend to reach a wider audience. That's just kind of how businesses work. John Xboxers with No Spider-Man or The Last of Us on Xbox. Again, this is in response to the sort of PSU type article that, again, got passed around a number of times here, which, again, if you believe that, go right ahead and believe that. But I still think that you're fucking wrong that they won't actually end up bringing over some of their other single-player games because, again, they've already gotten the sales on their platform, so why not bring it to others and get more sales? Just makes sense. Valerie or Maxine Deathstriker with a told you, but you didn't believe me. People freaking out and thought everything is coming. It's not. It's just smaller titles like Everybody's Golf and live service games can go over to other platforms, and that's it. I find it interesting, again, how the shift from the PlayStation fanboys mentality has always been like single-player games are bust. It's all of our games, exclusive games will never go over there. It's like, well, then you can now have this, or then you can now have this, thinking like, oh, they're appeasing the PlayStation people, or they're appeasing the PC guys, like how people did it in other ones. But that's the thing. No. You guys, the fanboys, are not appeasing anyone. You're just the vocal minority of people that are basically trying to stop Sony from making more money. Just, that's how this works. That's how all of this has always worked. Dimitri with the hopefully it's only live service, but Sony must dismantle this little storm and just explain what is coming. Fans of the first hour deserve it. Oh my god. That last sentence of fans of the first hour deserve it kind of feels like it comes straight out of a 40K book, and I don't know why, but it's very strange to me. Next up, we got Video Games Rock with no shit. People, especially Xbox fans, are usually, as usual, are always looking for anything to cling to. I guarantee you people at Sony have been laughing their asses off at how much this has taken off. I find it funny how that first sentence is just pure fucking projection, where it's like, oh yeah, people, especially Xbox fans, are usually as usual, are always looking for anything to cling to. Yeah, like PlayStation fans themselves are not doing the exact same fucking thing 90% more effectively, or 90% more of the time, and also doing it with 100% more conviction, which is just really fucking stupid. It's so hilarious. Echoes art here with Sony excels in single-player market like God of War, Last of Us game series. They made money from these types of games. Why do they want to get into live service games? You end up wasting more money, not as profitable, and the market is saturated. Well, I do agree with that last bit that the market is pretty saturated with live service games. Good live service games, as in very good live service games, can make them buckets of fucking money. The best example, for a Sony example specifically, is Helldivers 2. You want to know how much fucking money that thing made? A butt ton. Like a metric fucking butt ton. And it's still making them money even after the game has launched on other platforms. When it launched day and date on PC, they made a fucking butt ton of money. When they got the backlash, they actually had to walk back that backlash thing. And they eventually made it so that way, eventually they got all of the regions unlocked again. And you know what else? They are now launching it on Xbox, and it ended up topping, well, maybe not topping the charts, but it ended up selling fucking buckets numbers of money onto that platform. So, no, that is a PlayStation-published game that was on the live service that made them fuckloads of money. Of course, they also had a Concord in this situation, but who hasn't had a Concord at some point in terms of this? I think to kind of, wrap this up and to basically tie a nice little bow is to show that this is not the majority of people that are talking about this. The majority of people that are talking about this are actually people kind of like this that are kind of okay with it, or just making fun of the PlayStation guys, such as these three examples here. But the majority of people are actually perfectly fine with this because, it's just the PlayStation fanboys who are actually fucking butthurt about this. But overall, I think that'll about do it for today's episode of I Rant Into This Microphone, obscenely longly for what is essentially just a nothing burger of something with a little bit of a salt on the side. My name is GamePenguin21. If you like what it is that I do and want to check out any of my music stuff, links down in the description below. Please hit a like and subscribe so you're going to have 1.5k by the end of the year. I do stream every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST, and that is hopeful for things to go forward.
Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know.